Hi, everybody. Welcome back. Thanks for tuning in to the Merf Irf show.
Yeah, welcome to the Merf Irf show.
And Merf is exquisitely dressed again.
Yep. My Panamanian diplomat.
You know what's amazing?
What's
How
that?
you've just kept that so clean, that suit.
Yeah, exactly.
No chutney stains.
We look exactly the same as in the last episode. That's crazy, isn't it?
Yeah,
That's
that is
wild.
crazy. Wow.
I mean, we didn't even coordinate that or anything.
Yeah.
We're just dressed exactly the same.
Our uniform.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You've got to wear that shirt every
Yeah.
time now. Yeah.
Oh, dear. Okay, so that was interesting with the mafia. Now, you did mention last time that JFK
Was heavily involved with the mafia.
Okay.
Big time.
And you were saying that's a different podcast.
Yeah, I mean, well, yeah, we can make a whole episode about JFK.
Okay.
Because, boy, was that guy scandalous.
Really?
I mean, he stole the election. He won. The 1960 election was totally stolen.
Mm.
Yeah.
Quite a few elections have been stolen.
No, yeah, but not to this extent. I mean,
Really?
like, what do you know about Cuba? Because it all comes from Cuba.
Great vodka bars.
Do you know much about like the revolution?
Yeah. Who was the Frida Che Guevara?
Fidel Castro is the main guy.
Fidel Castro. Okay.
So before that revolution, Cuba is seen as like a second Vegas.
That's where people used to go to gamble.
Casinos and
Right.
stuff. So what happens is the mafia is pumping crap loads of money, like billions of dollars
Into Cuba.
Building casinos. They basically run the country. And this revolution's happening, this little revolution. But the guy in charge of Cuba, this general called Batista, not to be confused with the wrestler, this guy Batista is like assuring them, he's like, don't worry about it. You know, it's just some little rebels. You know, we'll deal with it easy. And then the rebels win.
Yeah.
And being communists, they seize all the foreign assets, which includes the billions of dollars that the mafia have just pumped into the country.
That didn't go down too well.
It did not.
No.
So the mafia is absolutely furious about it, and they're like, "We need this guy gone. We need to get rid of Castro at any cost." It's like it's like this obsession they have for the next 50 years. We need to get rid of Castro. And the thing is Kennedy, JFK, who's like this up and coming presidential candidate. He promises the mafia. He says to them, if you get me elected, and by the way, we spoke about this in the last episode, the Italians, the Irish and the Jews, they all hate each other, right? Kennedy was an Irishman. He was Irish. So the Italians wouldn't have normally gone for him. They would have hated him. But he promises them, you get me elected, I'll get you Cuba back.
Okay.
That's what he promises them. So they get him elected. There's voter intimidation. There's men.
So you were telling me it was rigged?
Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
There were men with Tommy gun, well, not Tommy guns, but like rifles, stood outside voting booths.
Yeah.
And being like, you better vote for Kennedy.
What year are we looking at roughly?
1960, election of 60.
Yeah.
I mean, in some particularly Republican areas, the voting booths would be shut down. The mafia would literally shut down these voting booths. They wouldn't let anyone in. It was totally rigged, and even with that, it was really close. Nixon should have won that election, and it shouldn't have even been a question. If that kind of thing happened today, it would be like civil war, you know. Especially with what we saw in 2020.
Yeah.
And that's debatable. But with the 1960 election, that was clear and cut.
Yeah.
JFK rigged that election.
Yeah.
And even then, he barely won. But he did win. So Mafia's thinking, okay, you know, this guy's going to work for us now. So, I mean, have you heard of the Bay of Pigs incident?
No, sir.
So what happens is, because Cuba's turned communist, and as communists do, they go around shooting people. There's a lot of refugees, a lot of Cuban refugees go to Florida, and these people do not care for the communist regime. So what JFK does is, using the mafia, and the CIA and the mafia work together on this, and they arm.
Sorry, what the CIA? What's the CIA?
The Central Intelligence Agency.
What's the difference between them and the FBI?
So the FBI is domestic. just within the United States,
Yeah.
whereas the CIA is foreign stuff.
Okay.
So it's like the difference between MI5 and MI6.
Okay.
The CIA is like their MI6, whereas the FBI is like their MI5. That's the gist of it. Although the CIA often operates.
Left Scotland Yard out.
Well, Scotland Yard is different, but never mind that.
Oh, okay. Forget Scotland.
We can do a different episode.
Okay.
But the CIA, although they do actually usually illegally operate within America as well, and they do work a lot with gangsters and cartels and whatnot.
Yeah.
But basically, the CIA and the mafia, they work together and they basically arm all of these Cuban exiles with like machine guns and rocket launchers and stuff. Yeah. And they all get on a big boat and they travel down to Cuba, and the idea is to march down to the capital city and overthrow Castro. Right. And that's what the mafia want, because then JFK can properly invade and, you know, mafia gets all their money back. Yeah. It's an absolute terrible failure. It's a huge embarrassment for Kennedy. Massive embarrassment for Kennedy. And it's a massive propaganda win for the communists as well. The exiles get destroyed because right at the last minute, Kennedy refuses to give them air support because he doesn't want to risk a war with the Soviet Union. Height of the Cold War, missile crisis and all that. So he refuses to give them air support, and they get absolutely destroyed on the beaches. They get absolutely obliterated. So there's this massive failure, and everyone knows it was Kennedy's idea and his fault. And from then on, he's basically really like scared about messing with Cuba because, again, he doesn't want to trigger a world war. So the mafia are pissed off with him. They absolutely despise him. And then, just to make matters worse, Kennedy puts his brother, Robert Kennedy, as the what's the term? It's like the guy in charge of like the courts and stuff. There's something attorney, like the general attorney, something like that, something along those lines. And that guy starts immediately like persecuting the mafia. And I think it's because Kennedy knows the mafia want his head now. Yeah. Because they're furious with him. And that's why, I mean, in my opinion, Lee Harvey Oswald did not kill Kennedy, in my opinion. And this is a conspiracy theory. So you're going to have to take me on my word here, you know. This isn't the official history.
So coming back to Kennedy, so he pissed the mafia off.
Yeah, big time.
So it's a brave thing to do. Yeah. You know, so he's done that. Is it because he's getting too big now, Kennedy, as well? He's thinking he's the most powerful man in the world. He can do whatever he wants. Yeah,
I mean, he is the most powerful man in the world, but it's more that he just failed with Bay of Pigs. It all comes from Bay of Pigs. Yeah.
Why is it called Bay of Pigs?
That's the name of the place where they landed, where the exiles landed was the Bay.
Was it named after the massacre? Just
no. It was just the Bay of Pigs.
Okay,
invasion.
Fine. So.
But yeah, he's and by the way, he was really involved in that life as well. I mean, like, again, conspiracy theory here. It's not. This isn't the official history. This is me saying what I think. Yeah, he had an affair with Marilyn Monroe. Yeah, it's pretty obvious he had an affair with Marilyn Monroe. Yeah, I mean, even from that birthday song alone, that she sang, "Happy Birthday, Mr. President,"
and she come out of
they were banging. They were banging. Yeah. There's no doubt about it. They were banging, and he banged a lot of women. Yeah, but Marilyn Monroe was very connected with the mafia, with the mob. So he had all these connections, and he annoyed him even more and more and more. And going back to like the assassination, a lot of people think the CIA did it. That doesn't make sense. And I'll tell you why. Is because his vice president who took over, Lyndon B. Johnson, that dude, Kennedy was a cold warrior. He was fully committed to fighting communism wherever it was, like spreading freedom and all that. Yeah. Lyndon B. Johnson was not into that. He was an, I don't know if I'd say old school Democrat, because that wouldn't be accurate, but he was focused on domestic issues. He was doing like civil rights stuff. Yeah. All the civil rights stuff that happened under JFK, like Martin Luther King stuff, that wasn't actually Kennedy. That was his vice president, who was basically just working behind the scenes. Yeah. And he did not care for like the Cold War or whatever. So it makes no sense for the CIA to off Kennedy to get Johnson in charge. It definitely wasn't the CIA. And if you look at bullet trajectories and stuff, it definitely wasn't Lee Harvey Oswald. And if you look into it, do you know who killed Lee Harvey Oswald?
Someone in court.
It was a guy called Jack Kirby.
Okay.
And guess who Jack Kirby worked for?
JFK.
It begins with an M. And we've just been talking about it.
The mafia.
Yeah. Jack Kirby ran a club for the mafia. Now, he shoots Lee Harvey Oswald before Oswald can testify in court. It's interesting that. And who, other than the CIA, who definitely wouldn't want to kill Kennedy because of reasons I've just said, what organization would have the resources to kill the most powerful man in the world?
Mafia.
Right, exactly. Yeah. And you start connecting dots. And again, I just want to clarify, this is not official history. This is my personal theory. It is not confirmed. Everything about this assassination is still classified. We don't know. So I just want to clarify that again in case we get some nasty
turning brown.
Why is there like a little red dot on my forehead? But I just wanted to clarify that, just like the utmost. This is not official history. This is my personal theory as a historian. But I think just everything aligns with it was the mafia that got JFK because they were pissed off over Bay of Pigs.
Yeah. So that it was in Dallas, wasn't it? The
yes.
motorcade.
Yeah, in Dallas.
Yeah.
But like if you just, I mean, they've gotten really professional shooters and snipers to try and recreate the shot that Lee Harvey Oswald did, and they can't do it.
The way, unfortunately, the way his head opened,
it's just so unlikely.
There, and you saw it. I mean, that wouldn't happen in today's day and age, would it? Like an open top car, parading.
Well, that's the reason why.
Yeah. So,
but JFK was very vain. He liked showing off.
Yeah.
I mean, he single-handedly killed the hat industry. Yeah. Although I'm bringing it back.
Yeah.
I'm bringing back the hat
You're
industry.
A mad hatter. How do you mean? Why would you want to kill the hat industry?
So before, and you'll see this in like old newsreels and stuff. Before JFK, like everyone was wearing hats all the time.
Yeah, of course.
JFK had such nice hair.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what he's known for. He's got lovely hair, great hair. So he didn't like covering up with a hat. And I challenge you to find a photo of JFK wearing a hat.
I don't think I can.
No, he never wore one because he didn't like covering up his hair, and obviously because everyone loves him because he's so look how great he is.
Yeah.
People, would you believe, copy people that they like. They like dressing like how people they like dress. So people stop wearing hats.
Who do you like?
I'm a big Nixon fan.
Yeah.
And Nixon always used to wear a hat until JFK killed the industry. But I actually think Nixon is probably one of, if not the best president in American history.
Richard Nixon.
Yeah. But he gets such a bad rep. The amount of people that say he's the worst president, it grinds my gears.
Yeah.
And I mean, we can pivot into talking about Nixon a bit if you'd like.
Yeah. Was it Watergate Nixon?
This is the thing, right?
Watergate, the Frost and... Yeah, your waters are going now. I can see.
Nixon did not order Watergate.
He
didn't even know about it until after it happened. He didn't know that Watergate had happened until after it had already occurred. What people get him on is when he found out after it happened. By the way, he was furious with the people who did it. He was like, why would you do this? I'm the most popular president in history. And he probably was the most popular president in history. I don't need to cheat. Why are you doing this? But the thing is, if he had just come out and exposed it, then, well, everyone would be calling for his head anyway, because they would have been like, oh, well, you cheated the election and you just admitted it. So, of course, he's going to sweep it under the rug so that he can focus on his agenda, because he doesn't want to deal with all these opponents saying, you cheated in the election. No. I want to focus on my agenda. I want to do these domestic reforms I'm doing. He brought in the EPA. He abolished the gold standard.
What's EPA?
The Environmental Protection Agency.
Oh, okay.
He did so much for the environment that people don't know about.
Yeah.
He did a little bit for civil rights. His record's not entirely good on that, but like for the most part, he was better than anyone else that could be in charge at the time. But his foreign policy, especially, he probably saved the world. Like his foreign policy, if it weren't for him, World War III would have broken out.
What was his foreign policy?
So he engaged in something called realpolitik. So before him, there was this idea of it was called liberal interventionism, or like being a cold warrior, where it's all about you've got to stop communism wherever it appears. We've got to be absolutely opposed to communism in all its forms, and we've got to be ready to like go to war with it. Realpolitik is basically pragmatism. It's about being very pragmatic. The last thing we want is for a nuclear war to start. And it's still opposing. You're still opposing communism, but you're also being realistic about it. It's like we've got to work with these guys, and that's why Nixon visits China. Very famous. There's a lot of like cartoons where they call him like Tricky Dicky, and they've got like pictures of Nixon with racist character eyes and stuff, because he recognized China. But if you actually look into it, and a lot of people say, oh we shouldn't have done that because look at China now. But if you look at it, if he didn't do that at the time and get good relations with China then, China would have just allied with the Soviets. Now, that would be a far worse situation, Russia and China working together, because at the time, Russia and China hated each other, but they were both communist. So if nothing was done, eventually they would have got back together.
Sure.
Like a abusive couple or something. But Nixon came in to be the rebound for Mao. He was like Mao's rebound from the abusive relationship with Moscow. And it's all stuff like that. This realpolitik and the treaties he made, along with Kissinger, God rest. Ronald Reagan would have started World War III if it weren't for those treaties. So I think Nixon is the best president ever, and Watergate wasn't even his fault. Rant over.
Okay. Wow, that's the end of that. Okay, so you obviously love Nixon.
Big time.
Yeah. What do you think about Bush?
Which one?
Not senior.
I don't like him.
No. Why?
It's warmonger. He was controlled by his vice president. Dick Cheney was the real president there.
Yeah.
Dick Cheney was really in charge.
Yeah.
Bush was a moron.
Yeah.
Infantile moron.
Incompetent as well.
100%. He didn't. I don't think Bush really made a single decision for himself. I think every single decision he made was probably, he was sitting in the crisis room and he just said, what should I do? And someone just told him and he was like, okay, I'll do that.
Because we're talking about Bush, 9/11.
Oh, okay. I thought you were going to go a different direction there.
No, 9/11, the footage of when he was told. He was in some primary school.
He was in a school.
Yeah, he was in some nursery or school.
He was reading a book. Yeah.
I think he needed help. Just looking at the pictures, you mean?
Yeah.
Okay, so he had a book, and he was then told, but then his reaction afterwards, it's not like, oh my God, we're being attacked, let's get the hell out of here. He's just looking vacant.
Well, you would, wouldn't you?
Not really. If you'd get the hell out.
I disagree. Okay. I think because you'd be trying to like process it and stuff, but also you got to remember, like, you wouldn't want to upset the kids or anything. You wouldn't like want to freak out.
Okay.
So if you look at him, like his face, his face goes very serious.
So
he comprehends what's going on.
Let the country get fucked, and as long as the children.
No, well, he leaves straight away. I mean, like he gets up and he basically like goes up to like a teacher or something. He's like, I've got to go. There's like a national security issue. Yeah. And he leaves. He leaves straight away.
Okay.
It's not like he stays around.
No, it was. I think he did stay around.
Did he?
Yeah,
I'm
he
not
was
sure.
like he's looking in the book.
Yeah.
He's in a bit of shock, as if he's, he just didn't look assertive.
No, I get that, but I think in his position, you'd act like that.
Yeah.
I think in his position, I mean, you think, the 90s were like the best decade for the United States. It's the best the United States has ever been. It's like a time of prosperity. You're the leader of the free world in a time when there's no real enemies.
Britain as well was.
Yeah, well, yeah, exactly.
When Blair come in.
Yeah, exactly. And everything's looking up. Yeah. And then all of a sudden you're told, like, 2,000 plus people have just been killed on American soil by terrorists. And you'd be like, what?
One of the most powerful countries in the world.
Exactly, is being attacked.
They're collapsing their security.
Yeah. You would act like that.
Yeah.
I think anyone in his position would act like he did, and I will give him credit.
Nuts?
Yeah. Well, I think in his
you're
credit,
either with us or you're not.
Yeah, I think to his credit, like his immediate reaction to 9/11 was pretty fair.
Okay.
Everything after that was absolute nonsense. There was no reason to invade Iraq.
Yeah.
Invading Iraq is probably the worst decision.
But before that, it was Afghanistan, wasn't it?
I think I'm trying to remember my timeline.
Yeah,
now.
no, Iraq was Desert Storm.
Yeah,
I think that was 1990-91.
Well, that was the first Iraq. So there's two. There's two.
Oh, okay.
So
I think he went into Afghanistan.
Yeah.
Where Osama was hiding in Tora Bora.
I think they invade Iraq first.
Okay, go.
Oh, I can't remember my timelines now. Okay. See, the thing is, being a historian, is the more recent to now it gets, the less I'm good at it. You know.
Okay.
And especially if I was living through it at the time, because I just wasn't conscious of this stuff, being a little baby and whatnot.
All right, we might cut that bit out where we're, a bit uncertain.
Yeah.
But 9/11. What do you make of 9/11?
What do you want to get into conspiracy theories here?
Yeah, but what's your view of 9/11?
I'm suspicious about it. I've studied it for university, not just like as a conspiracy. I've actually studied it for like university level stuff, because I did a module on national intelligence and national intelligence failings. And if you look at it, if they basically knew it was going to happen and they did nothing to stop it. But the thing is, because all these agencies, because America has so many agencies, FBI, CIA, but they also have the NSA.
No strings attached.
I don't actually know what NSA stands for. I'm drawing a blank on that.
National Security Agency?
Probably.
Okay.
It's probably that.
Yeah.
But they have no strings attached, funnily enough.
Yeah.
These agencies don't communicate with each other.
Yeah.
And if you look at it, each agency had enough like evidence that if you put it all together, it's clear as day that the attacks are going to happen.
Yeah.
But they just didn't they didn't connect the dots.
They're busy playing golf.
Yeah. And Russia warned the United States as well. Russian intelligence knew. They warned the United States, and they still did nothing. And I just think it's very suspicious.
Is it because it was an internal job?
What, an inside job?
Yeah.
Well, again, this is where we get interesting. I mean, there's so many things about these attacks that are just so suspicious.
Yeah.
Even the way the buildings fall. Those buildings being hit by a plane, they should not have fallen the way they did. Because you see
Twin
the footage,
towers.
They go straight down.
Yeah.
They collapse on themselves.
Yeah.
Steel beams can't be melted at the temperatures that would be generated from a plane hitting them. That's thermite.
Yeah.
Right. Those are thermite charges. A building like that, if it collapsed at all, it would fall over. It would topple over. It would hit other buildings, but it didn't. They go straight down.
You know that them sort of buildings collapse like that when they detonate.
When it's a controlled demolition.
Controlled demolition.
Exactly.
So.
And I'm not going to say anything one way or the other, because I'm not an
you're
authority.
Sitting on the fence.
I'm no authority on this, but I don't think Bin Laden did it. I think he took credit for it because that's what you do when you're a terrorist and you want to strike fear into the heart of these American devils.
But
something like that happens.
He was friends with the Bush family, and
I don't know anything
the
about
Bin
that.
Laden family, and
I don't know
they
anything
trained
about
him when he was fighting against Russia.
Oh, the Mujahideen, yeah.
He was their friend.
Yeah, I mean it's quite funny really with the Mujahideen. And the Mujahideen by the time of 9/11 was still American friendly. The Taliban was a splinter group. They were you see Monty Python splitters.
Yeah.
The Taliban were a splinter organization. But the Mujahideen were still are to this day. They are pro-American because they still exist. And they're pro-American.
Yeah. So you're a bit skeptical with 9/11.
I'm skeptical, but I don't want to say anything one way or the other for a few reasons.
Yeah. Well, it's a shame, all the devastation, the lives lost.
Yeah, it's terrible.
In America, abroad as well,
yeah.
Afghanistan.
Really terrible, actually. Yeah.
You know, what can you say?
Hmm.
But yeah,
lovely topic of conversation there.
Yeah, lovely topic of conversation. But you know, it's nice just to touch. I mean, I'm sure we could have gone on and on and on, but you know, looking at the time which we've got.
We've got like 2.5 minutes.
Yeah. So maybe we will discuss, in another episode. If you're up for it.
Yeah, I mean, like, we can bring up some more little tidbits about like JFK before we close or something.
Yeah, JFK.
Interestingly, Nixon and Kennedy, who were notorious rivals, and like I say, their election was really close. They had the first ever televised presidential debate. Was Nixon and Kennedy. They were across the hall from each other because Nixon was vice president, Kennedy was a senator, and their offices were literally across from each other.
Yeah.
And they were actually, even though they hated each other politically, they were actually great personal friends.
Wow.
And they got along really well. And they used to send each other letters all the time. And they'd always like go across to each other's rooms and like hang out in each other's offices.
Yeah.
Which I find quite sweet and quite interesting. It's a nice little tidbit there.
Yeah, thanks for that, Merf. And thank you for enlightening us again, not only with the suit, with the words of wisdom and knowledge.
The suit is like reflective in the camera because of the whiteness of it. I'm like glowing.
You're a shining star.
Yeah.
Well, listen, buddy, thank you again.
Thank you.
And look forward to talking to you in the next episode
of the Merf Irf Show.
Yeah, thanks everyone for tuning in to the Irf and Merf Show. Yeah. Keep on tuned, man. Thank you.